Right. Hello, I'm Jim McLaughlin. And up until 3 years ago, I was the festival director. And me and Sue founded the festival back in 2000.
So I'm Sue McLaughlin. Yes, we are joined. We're married. And we've managed to survive 25 years of Musicport, still being married, which has been quite a challenge. But yes, we started it back in 2000, almost by accident.
Yeah, we had a bookshop and a cafe, and it had a performance space upstairs, and this was in Robin Hood's Bay. We ended up having to forego the lease there, and we had some events booked in the space, and we didn't know what to do with them. We went to the Arts Council, and they told us, because it was a millennium, there was funding available to do a one-off festival, which is what we did, a one-off World Music Festival for the millennium.
We called it the snappy title of Whitby Musicport World Music Festival Weekend.
So for the millennium.
For the millennium.
Yeah, it was anyway.
It runs off the tongue, clearly. But it was intended as a one-off. We sold some tickets in advance. I think we sold about 198 tickets. And we really didn't know what to expect. And amazingly, people just turned up.
Yeah, and we had
numbers rose.
Yeah, and everybody said, at the end of the weekend, we're coming back next year. So
we had to book in some dates for the following year, and it kind of rolled from there.
Unfortunately, at that point, there was some European funding around, and so that managed to get off to a really good start. And yeah, it just developed really. And so what was just a silly idea really turned into 25 years of
pretty much year-round work. It kept you busy, certainly all year. And
and as soon as one festival finished, the next one was being planned. So it's very much the way it's worked. We've been very lucky to have a great team of people all the way through it. In fact, the sound guys have been with us since year one.
They have HPSS from Hull, and just brilliant, and all the musicians love them. And they love the musicians. They're very knowledgeable and very sympathetic to strange instruments that they might not have seen the like of before, and they managed to make them all sound fantastic.
And some of the musicians, one of the reasons we wanted to do a World Music Festival in the first place was that we put it on a Congolese band in Robin Hood's Bay, who we just couldn't believe the response to. The whole place, the whole building, we were a bit worried about the floor.
People had never seen anything like this.
And so Robert Maseko and his band, that they really inspired us doing the World Music Festival. And Robert came and DJ'd for us last year, so he's still around and he's still part of the sort of Musicport family. There are threads all the way through, and a lot of the same, people who worked with us from the very beginning are still working at the festival. So, it does keep a really good thread and a family feel.
Some of them came as school students on work experience, and they're still with us, the stage managers and such. So that's really nice.
Yeah, the reason we sort of wanted to hold it at the Pavilion was really, in terms of Whitby, it is the venue.
There really isn't anywhere else without going further afield like Scarborough or Bridlington or Middlesbrough. Yeah. And that wasn't the point. We wanted it to be local. We wanted it to reflect Whitby and be Whitby's own festival. So I think the Pavilion was the only choice, really. We're very fortunate. There's the main stage, which is a big hall. There's the theatre, which has a lovely atmosphere, and there've been some magical moments in the theatre. Then we've got the downstairs stage, which has had various names over the years. North Sea Stage, Perfume Garden, Club Stage, all sorts. And that tends to be slightly more...
It's more of a clubby kind of atmosphere down there.
Bit more upbeat.
Also, to have had all the stalls as well over the years we've built up, so that there's actually a festival market within the Pavilion, and it was the only space that actually offered us the space to do all those things. I mean, the first year we only used the cafe and the main hall, And it's over the years that followed, we developed it outwards. And in fact, I think we've ended up using every inch of this building at some point. Much the frustration of the staff, I think.
Yeah, the space we're sitting in now is really a bit of a corridor, the theatre bar, but it gets transformed along with the whole of the rest of the building. And I think this year it's going to be a really special area. It could be a chill zone, but with all sorts of interesting things.
We've had it as an open mic area at times as well.
Yeah, the Lobster Hatchery are developing this area for this year. But yeah, the open mic stage was really popular in here. That now is on the blunderbuss, and that's great. As it belongs there, it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the fact that it's a small festival. I mean, it's one of the reasons, we can't always attract the big acts that we'd really like, is because, we have a limited number of tickets that we can sell.
Being indoors, we're limited by the size of the main hall. But that's also a massive benefit, isn't it? Because people can get that close to their heroes, their musicians that they've worshipped from afar. And it feels really intimate. It almost feels as if they're in your sitting room somehow, doesn't it?
I think it feels like that, but also, just
big party.
Yeah, absolutely. It does feel like a big party a lot of the time, like it. And the audience feel like family as well. We've seen the same faces through the years.
A lot of people come back and bring friends. We've had children grow up and come back with their children, which is lovely. Yeah,
and one of the inspirations behind it was the fact that living in Whitby, which is sort of very monocultural, and certainly was in 2000.
Certainly predominantly white.
Yeah,
for a start.
We had a young child. We didn't want her growing up in a and the fact she'd probably have to go off to university or whatever, and it'd be in a multicultural setting. And they would, it was giving them an opportunity to experience some of the things that, because I grew up next door to Brixton, which is a very sort of multicultural area. So I was sort of very aware of the need to sort of have that sensitivity towards other cultures. So, yes.
I think the other thing that makes it special is that we didn't come from a big corporate background. I was a teacher, Jim was a social worker. We didn't really know what we were doing in terms of running festival. We didn't quite make it up as we went along, but there was a lot of finding out as we went along.
It was quite hard. The early couple of years were really difficult.
We also just tried to treat everyone as real people, as individuals, whether they were volunteers, audience, artists, staff here at the Pavilion, at the venue. We just tried to sort of make it comfortable for everyone.
But I do think the artists always felt they were really made to feel welcome, and that was different to a lot of festivals, really. When you look at some of the big outdoor festivals, I don't think it always happens that they're looked after in the way they would be in a small, intimate environment like this.
Yeah, we had an amazing woman called Sue Longmate who did the artist catering for a lot of years, and she would bake at home for weeks. But, there was lovely, freshly prepared, home-baked food, catering for every diet.
And that sort of still carries on, I think. And, it's always been the ethos of making sure they're well catered for.
We do plastic sandwiches.
If you make the sound good for the artist as well, it trickles down. All those things that you do to make them feel comfortable, actually, it ends up in the performance.
Yeah.
So.
And remembering that they've probably been on the road for days, they're probably tired, they're probably hungry, they don't know where they are, they don't know what it's going to be like. And we just feed them, sit them down, let them relax. And as you say, the performance comes out of that. So that's a real benefit.
Over the years, I think there's been a few really memorable times for us. I think the very first year, on the Sunday morning, we had a gospel choir singing in the cafe. And we just all sat there in tears.
I'm glad not even thinking about it.
It was absolutely beautiful. And the sun was rising over the sea, and it just looked glorious, didn't it?
It really did. And just hearing this solo is coming coming out with this amazing sound, and then the whole gospel choir joined in with that. And it really took your breath away.
So that was
there with plates of croissants and coffee, and I couldn't move. It was amazing.
Yeah, so that was number one, wasn't it? First year, and then in 2006, the Buena Vista Social Club came to Whitby, and that was quite astonishing. They when they left the building, the whole audience made a line through the cafe and out into the car park.
It was like the parting of the seas.
And they shook hands with, and the band shaking hands with everybody as they went. And it was just...
That was also very emotional.
I mean, if anybody who was there would just remember it as being an incredibly special thing that happened.
Yeah. And then we've had a really spooky one when the Lal Waterson project were on stage, and Lal had died a few years before. Everything, it was really quiet, all the doors were closed, and in particular, a stage door that everyone had checked was shut, just swung open, right as they were singing
a song about, vampires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was...
It was, yeah. So was that Hugh Masekela, this is a point where we had the festival in Bridlington for 4 years. Hugh Masekela came, an amazing South African musician, and went around hugging everyone at the event. That was glorious. He was just such a, so I mean...
He was such a personality.
He was.
So we've had some amazing names here, really. I think bringing them to Whitby and or Bridlington. It's just...
Rashid Taha sitting in the cafe on a Sunday morning, listening to the DJs, reading Le Monde.
Yes.
Pretty special.
Lots of little cameos and Saharan band.
Oh, Tiris. Yes.
Never seen the sea.
Who'd never seen the sea before, and they came dressed in all their robes, and it was freezing cold out there, and they stood on the cliff top here, just watching the sea. They were absolutely mesmerised. They'd never seen the sea. They'd come from the southern Sahara, or the western Sahara, in fact. They were just, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
There are some things, we've tried and they work really well for a while, but there are practical difficulties like having a cookery stage. It's always difficult to find a space where you can do it safely.
It was hugely popular because we'd get artists to cook a favourite dish from home, wherever home was. And it was really popular, but it was almost a victim of its own success because we hadn't got enough space.
I've been talking about that with Mackie recently, about how we could do that again somehow. So, there are, we're always looking at ways that we can move it on. We've had some, having the spoken word element, trying to incorporate that a little bit more again this year. We've got various artists that we're talking to at the moment. So hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll be able to release a few names.
Yeah, it's a popular thing to have some comedy, some spoken words. And
poetry.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, how we go about creating a lineup is really difficult. I usually have an idea of who I'd like to headline, but whether they're available, that's often a matter of if they're touring at the time. So every year it's been a bit of a get one or two acts in place and then the whole rest of the lineup follow. It tends to be that I try and balance it out in terms of the types of music that we're going to get, that we've got maybe some African music, some reggae, some European music, some folk, and spoken words. Every year you try and make it a little bit different to the year before, but also what interests, we sort of know what interests our punters. And so though we don't try to book acts year on year, which I know some festivals do, they have regular, we try not to do that at all.
One or two favourites will come back maybe after a year or two.
Well, more than that, usually sort of 3 or 4 years down the line. Yeah.
And you also work really hard to try and get a gender balance as well. It's not always as possible as, to get that as well balanced as we like, but our audience is very, very balanced. We have quite a lot of people come on their own, and we have quite a high percentage of gay audience members or LGBTQ plus. And it's really good that we can begin to address that and reflect that within the
programming, which we definitely do.
And through Simon's involvement in recent years, we're developing the neurodivergent theme, both in audience and performers. And again, I think that's really important because it's something that is so often hidden and not reflected openly.
And this is a very safe space for people, and that's why people feel they can come on their own.
A lot of people come on their own, yeah. Yes, and it does feel safe. It's safe for families as well.
Yeah.
Children are welcome, and there's always something for them to do, and they're again in a safe and contained environment. I think the festival has evolved. Well, first of all, it's developed in size, and that does change how you do things a bit, doesn't it? But it's evolved because we've managed to get different organisations involved, especially in the last 2 or 3 years. The newer team coming on board have brought different contacts, haven't they? And I think that's really important. And we've got more community groups in Whitby actively coming and doing.
I mean, I don't think the basic structure of the festival has changed that much over the years in terms of, we've got a certain number of stages within the building limits as to what you can do. But, we have developed certain aspects of it through the years. And, I think COVID time and things made us have to reevaluate a few things.
Yes, and use some of the spaces a bit differently.
Yeah.
I think one thing that has really evolved and become very important to the festival is the cafe area here, Pavilion, is our DJ hub. And for a lot of people, that is their base. Everyone that's going anywhere within the festival has to move through that area. And so that has its own special little atmosphere, doesn't it? And special buzz. And that has really developed, I think.
And I think Bob's Blunderbuss has been a great addition to the festival over the last few years. In fact, I think some people can't ever be prized off the bus, permanently stuck in there. And I can understand why. It's fantastic. I dare them go in there because I know I'll just want to stay there.